In the gleaming heart of the Tyrellian Empire, the vast palace stretched like a constellation of silver spires under the twin suns. The Tyrellian king, an imposing figure with deep crimson eyes and a voice that resonated like a supernova, convened a grand assembly. The court was filled with advisors, generals, and emissaries from distant worlds, all waiting in tense silence. Today, a proclamation would reshape the future of the empire itself. The king's gaze swept across the assembly. By decree of the crown, he began, his voice carrying an unyielding authority. My daughters, the princesses of Tyrellia, shall each marry a human. Only through this union can the strength of our species merge with that of another. Harmony, unity, and survival demand it. A ripple ran through the crowd. Humans were rare in the galaxy, often considered fragile compared to Tyrellians. To some, the king's decision was madness. To others, it was an opportunity. Yet within the royal chambers, the princesses themselves reacted differently. Princess Lyra, the eldest, stepped forward, her silver hair glinting like starlight. "Father," she said, voice calm yet unwavering, "I do not oppose humans as a concept, but my heart will not bend to a decree. I will choose my own path." The king's eyes flared, crimson intensity pulsing like molten metal. "Lyra, obedience is not optional. This is not a matter of desire. It is duty. Tyrellia's future rests upon it." Lyra bowed slightly, but did not retreat. Behind her, Princess Mira, younger and more fiery, clenched her fists. She had always been unpredictable, a spirit unbound by convention. "If some of us must marry humans, then we will, but do not mistake duty for blind submission. Not all of your daughters will obey, because our hearts are our own," she said, and her words sparked murmurs in the hall. In the months that followed, the palace became a hub of tension and negotiation. Human envoys arrived from distant systems, their ships shimmering with technology unfamiliar to the Tyrellians. Among them was a human named Kale, a soldier and explorer known for courage that defied odds. He was assigned as a candidate to one of the princesses, though he had no knowledge of the royal decree upon his arrival. Kale's first encounter with Princess Lyra was under the glass domes of the palace gardens, where bioluminescent flora bathed the scene in soft blues and purples. Lyra observed him carefully. Humans were smaller, weaker in raw strength, yet there was something in their posture, in the calm in their gaze, that suggested an unyielding spirit. "You are Kale," she said simply. "Yes," Kale replied, bowing respectfully. "And you are Princess Lyra. It is an honor to meet you." Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly. "Do you understand why you are here?" Kale shook his head. "Not fully. Only that I am to meet your sisters, and perhaps—" He hesitated. "Choose a bride?" Lyra's lips curved faintly. "The king believes our union will strengthen both species. But do not mistake that for consent. Not all of us will obey." Meanwhile, Mira observed from the shadows, her sharp eyes catching every detail. She had already decided she would not be bound by a decree. When Kale met her briefly in the training halls, she challenged him immediately. "If the king wants obedience, he is mistaken," Mira said, circling him with a predatory grace. "I will not marry because of duty. I will marry if I choose. Can your human pride withstand that?" Kale straightened, meeting her challenge without hesitation. "If it is choice you value, then I respect it. I do not fight for duty. I fight for trust and perhaps for understanding." Myra's grin was almost feral. Here was a human who did not cower, who did not plead for mercy. This intrigued her. Even as she refused the king's orders, she felt the first stirrings of curiosity toward this strange, stubborn human. As weeks passed, court politics grew more intense. Some princesses, especially the youngest, whispered agreement with their father's plans, intrigued by humans' unpredictable ingenuity and courage. Others, like Lyra and Mira, quietly plotted ways to maintain autonomy. In the grand dining hall, during a ceremonial banquet, Kale observed the interplay of Tyrellian nobility. Some treated him with thinly veiled suspicion. Others studied him as if he were a puzzle to be solved. Across the room, Lyra's gaze found his, and in it, he saw both caution and intelligence, a mind that would not bend easily. "The king believes our obedience is certain," Myra said to Lyra in private later that night. "He underestimates us, and he underestimates this human." Lyra's reply was measured. "Perhaps that is our advantage. Kale may represent the unity he seeks, but if he is to win hearts, he must respect freedom, not command it." Kale himself faced challenges. Training with Tyrellian warriors revealed stark differences. Humans were physically weaker, yet Kale's adaptability, resourcefulness, and tactical thinking allowed him to hold his own. In the palace arena, he sparred with the princesses. Each bout was a lesson, not just in combat, but in mutual respect. Myra's strikes were fluid, precise, yet Kale anticipated, adapted, and countered. "You learn fast," Mira remarked after one match, her chest rising with exertion. "Perhaps too fast for your own good." Kale wiped sweat from his brow. "Or perhaps I am simply determined." The king, observing from his high balcony, began to sense the growing bond between humans and some of his daughters, but it was not simple obedience. The princess's independent wills created a tension he had not accounted for. One evening, an emergency call from the outer rim of Tyrellia drew Kale into action. A rogue fleet threatened a remote colony, and the king, begrudgingly, allowed him to lead a human Tyrellian joint squadron. Lyra, who had joined voluntarily, observed him command with calm authority. She saw in Kale not just courage, but a rare combination of foresight and empathy. After the battle, with the rogue fleet scattered, Kale and Lyra stood on the observation deck, overlooking the stars. "You fought well," Lyra said quietly. Kale looked at her, the distant lights reflecting in his eyes. "We fought together. That is what matters." In that moment, Lyra understood something the king could never enforce. True unity did not come from decree or fear, it came from mutual respect. Trust and choice. Myra, meanwhile, had begun testing Kale in her own way, sending challenges that were not official but personal. Each encounter pushed him further, yet Kale's persistence and ingenuity slowly earned her cautious admiration. "You are stubborn, human," she said one night after he solved the complex tactical puzzle she had designed. "Perhaps that is why the king thinks you can marry us. But remember, my obedience is my own." Days turned into weeks, and tensions within the palace escalated. Some factions of the court demanded that the king enforce his decree strictly. Others saw potential in the humans' adaptability and hoped for a voluntary alliance. Finally, the king summoned the princesses. "The time has come to choose," he announced. "Each daughter will declare her intended. This is not optional." Lyra stepped forward first. Her voice was steady, her presence commanding. "I will marry a human, not because of duty, but because I choose to honor his courage and his wisdom. Kale, will you stand by me as my partner, equal in all things?" Kale nodded, understanding the weight of choice behind her words. "I will, Lyra, not for duty, not for decree, but because it is what I wish." Myra's moment was different. She approached, gaze fiery, yet she carried a quiet smile. "I will not marry because the king says so. But if Kale can match my mind and spirit, then perhaps. I will consider." Kale bowed slightly, recognizing the challenge. "I accept the challenge, Myra, not as a subject, but as a partner willing to earn trust and respect." The court watched in astonishment. Two princesses, independent and proud, had embraced humans not under compulsion, but because they recognized merit, courage, and equality. Others, less certain, took inspiration from their choices, and whispers of change began to ripple through the Tyrellian Empire. The king, though outwardly composed, felt the weight of transformation. He had sought obedience, but what he had witnessed was far more powerful voluntary alliance, forged not by decree, but by respect and mutual understanding. The empire's future was uncertain, but perhaps for the first time. It was also truly promising. In the months that followed, Kale worked alongside the princesses to strengthen ties between humans and Tyrellians. Technology, culture, and military knowledge were exchanged. The palace, once a symbol of rigid hierarchy, became a hub of collaboration and innovation. Lyra and Mira, while different in temperament, shared a bond with Kale founded on trust and choice. Neither had been forced, neither had been commanded, and both recognized the value in autonomy. Through these unions, the Tyrellian Empire discovered that strength was not in domination, but in cooperation. Humans, once seen as fragile, revealed resilience, ingenuity, and an unshakable spirit. The princesses, once constrained by expectations, demonstrated that leadership included the courage to defy even a king for the sake of principles. The decree that had begun as a command transformed into a story of mutual respect. The king, watching his daughters and their human partners navigate challenges, began to understand that his vision of unity had been incomplete. It was not obedience alone that would sustain an empire. It was the willingness to recognize worth, courage, and choice in others, no matter how different they were. And so, under twin suns and starlit skies, the Tyrellian Empire stepped into a new era. Humans and Tyrellians, once strangers across the void, now shared bonds forged in respect and trust. The princesses had chosen not just pardon,